Hello and welcome to Introvert in Business, a podcast by me, John Baker, that will help you activate your introvert, unlocking the introvert superpowers within your business so that you can more confidently sell and network, that you can unleash more creativity and improve your business performance so that you get a better business. Today's podcast is looking at networking, something that most introverts really don't like. And I'm with Charlie Lawson, author of The Unnatural Networker. Charlie also runs BNI-UK, the UK arm of the world's largest networking organisation. And just before we start, if you want to get in touch to go into any of the subjects covered in more detail, please feel free. My details are on the podcast, and equally, if you'd like me to speak at your conference or work with your team to help improve productivity, creativity and profitability within your firm, I'd love to speak to you. Charlie, Unnatural Networker, runs a networking organisation. Yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Doesn't seem to quite fit, does it? So it does need some explanation. I very much call myself an unnatural networker because, whisper it, I don't really like networking. If I could avoid networking, I probably would.
So I'm talking to a guy that's written a book about networking, and he doesn't like networking.
Yep, definitely.
So you've definitely got some tips for people listening then.
Well, indeed, because a lot of networking experts go and talk to you about, well, all you've got to do when you're networking is go and talk to that person over there. And I'm thinking, really? Do I have to go and talk to that person over there? No, I'm definitely a bit more introverted. I am comfortable with my own company. I don't need to be talking to people the whole time. Look, it's not to say I don't enjoy a conversation. And when I get into a conversation, I love meeting people. It's fine. But that moment where you go into a networking event or go and see a bunch of people, you know, they all feel like they know what they're doing. They all look so comfortable, and that's the bit that gets me. Would I rather go and meet a bunch of new people or hang out with my mates? I'm sorry, I'm going to hang out with my mates every time.
Completely get that one. But why do people do networking then? Just taking it a step back from that for a second, we see all these people really comfortable with what they're doing.
Well, I say they're comfortable with what they're doing. How did they feel 5 minutes ago when they walked in the door? And that's the thing. The point is, when you do feel a bit uncomfortable and you feel like a bit of a lemon because no one's talking to you, well, someone comes and talks to you, or you get into a conversation, and honestly, it's fine. You know, you hear the phrase "working the room." You know, people who go around and talk to everyone. I had an old colleague, Nicola. We worked at a company. It was actually a company that did education in the wine and spirit industry. So there was often wine involved in the networking events we went to.
Quite like these networking events.
It was fine. But Nicola was one of these people who would just go, bit extroverted, happy to go and talk to anyone and everyone. And you'd see her and she'd be like, hi there, you'd go and talk to them. She would work the room. And I always used to comfort myself thinking, there's no way she's remembered everyone here. There's no way that's happening. You know what, the next day in the office, she'd be like, oh, did you meet Sam? Did you meet so-and-so? And they were connected with, she knew everything about everyone. I was like, how do you do that?
So presumably she's one of these people that, myself included, when I say we all, think of as, oh, Nicola was a great networker.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a but.
There is a but. And she was a good networker. There's no question about it. I would call her a natural networker. Another word would be weirdo, because she like, no, I'm joking. She was a very natural networker because she enjoyed, as an extrovert, you get pleasure from talking to people, from spending time with people. You don't want to be just trapped on your own. You want to talk to people and share your experiences. Introverts don't like that so much. They're a bit more comfortable in their own time. If I'm going to have some downtime, I want to just go and sit down, chill out, honestly. That's my way of doing it. In fact, I go running a lot. That's my thing. It's my me time. It's what I like to do. I'm on my own. Yeah. The point is that some people think you've got to be an extrovert to go networking. You've got to be able to go and do that working the room thing. We're all told we've got to bring in business. We need that phone to ring. Well, what are you going to do? You get told to go networking. Networking is just a label. It's a word that gets put to, honestly, having a conversation with people. That's all networking is. And it's just this business phrase that gets put on it that freaks people out, honestly. I, as an unnatural networker, I've got to pluck up the courage, honestly, to get into a conversation in the first place. When I do, well, I'm talking to a human being. It's fine, obviously.
So how do you, because lots of people listening to this podcast will say, I'm an introvert. I hate the fact that I go into a room and I'm
I know whether it's for my career or for my business, I've got to go and talk to people in this room.
Yeah.
And they have to go through exactly that step, Charlie. They have to pluck up the courage. What do you do to pluck up the courage?
Well, I look at one specific thing, and that's just people's body language. Honestly, if you this is not only on audio, so it's not a visual exercise. But if two people are very close together, don't interrupt them. That's pointless. Yeah. Look for people with just open body language. They might be in a very pleasant conversation. You're not going to barge in and say, "Hi, I'm Charlie," and just dive in there. Of course you're not. But what you are going to do is go and stand alongside them and say, "Can I join in?" What your body language is saying is, look, I'm having a great conversation, but I'm welcoming other people in. We all go to networking events to meet people, don't we? So they're saying that. But there's an even better bit of body language to look out for. And again, this doesn't work as a audio exercise, but as if you can imagine, the smartphone.
Ooh.
It's not a device to make calls on or connect to the internet or whatever. It's to make sure that I don't look like I'm doing nothing at a networking event. Am I checking my email? And I'm doing, quote marks in the air there. Am I, quote, checking my emails? I'm not actually checking my emails. I'm thinking, I'm not talking to anyone. I want to make it look like I fit in here. If I actually had to go and check my emails, I'd go and sit quietly in the side of the room and go and do it because I've got work to do. If I'm doing it in the middle of the room, that's not the case. So look for people with their mobile phones out. That's the best, because there'll be a fellow unnatural networker, and all they want is someone to come up to them and say, "Hello."
So how do you? Because I love that, and you're absolutely right. Because I've done it myself enough times in groups, and we were talking
do
downstairs
it the whole time,
and I do it all the time.
Yep.
How do you go up to somebody that might be, in my head, oh my goodness, they must be really busy on their phone, despite the fact that I know if I was on my phone, I'm not. How do you approach them?
They're not busy on their phone.
So what do you say?
Simple. Hello.
Okay.
It's
that was hard then.
It's not rocket science.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Charlie. You might want to use your own name. It's
Yeah.
probably best. No, just go and say hello, and I promise you, they will appreciate it. They will not be checking their emails. They might finish off a quick tick, done, and then they're with you. They're not. They're just trying to fill in the time. And I think there's two benefits to it. Number one, you haven't had to interrupt someone's conversation, because even if you're going up to one of those sort of more open body language, two people talking, you've still got to kind of stand there slightly awkwardly until they spot you and they bring you into the conversation, which will happen, by the way. But you've still got to do that. You're not interrupting a conversation. That's the first benefit. Second benefit, you're talking to an unnatural networker who is just grateful that someone's talking to them. And
that must make it far easier. If somebody's grateful that you're talking to them,
the point of networking is you're building a relationship, which means they're feeling good about you in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that conversation is going to lead to
whatever
X, Y, and Z. We've no idea, but at least it started, and you're getting into the conversation.
So walk into the room, look for the body language.
Definitely body language.
Closed.
Yep.
Look for the person that is pretending to do their
Definitely
emails
or
whatever
emails,
they're pretending to do. That gives you the option to walk up and say, "Can I join you?" or "Hello, I'm Charlie," or whatever you want to
the
do.
line I often use, whether it's to someone on their own or to a group of, a couple of people that are on their own, I say, "Do you mind if I join you? I don't know anyone here." Now that might be a little white lie if I do know one or two people are here, but essentially, what do people do when they hear that? They go, "Yeah, of course you can. Come and join us."
And that's really interesting, because time and time again, if somebody's slightly vulnerable, one of the things we often talk about is somebody's vulnerable, we will naturally reach out and try and help them.
We'll try and help them, yeah.
Exactly. So by making yourself a little
bit
vulnerable.
But then there's another benefit, because I want to get back to this. So remember Nicola, the extrovert, who's happy to go and network the room and talk around everyone. And I thought had to be networking. See, when I do get into a conversation, I'm then stuck in a slight challenge, because I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm enjoying this conversation, but I know I can't stick with this person the whole time because they're going to think I'm weird. So I've got to go and talk to someone else now. But the point is, that little bit of nervousness about going to find someone else means I do stick a bit longer with the first person, which means I get to know them a bit better.
Okay.
So you might think you have to be an extrovert to go networking, but actually the introvert can network just as well. It's just a different way of doing it. I might not meet so many people, but I will get to know them slightly better because I'm going to spend more time with them. Like I said, though, you can't then stick to them like glue for the rest of the evening, because that's going to...
So just one thing I've been asked before, which is, so you've plucked up the courage, you've started the conversation, you've done the hello bit. What do you do next? Because lots of introverts I've spoken to kind of go, I don't know what to do next. And they feel really uncomfortable.
I think the key is you've got to have a few pre-prepared questions in your mind. Now, make sure they're in your mind. You don't want to be like there with the clipboard. So, and you're there almost checking the questions off. No, that's not going to work. But having some pre-prepared questions in your mind will really help. Generally, honestly, it's the who, what, where, when, how. Just the basic questions. You might want to start off with a basic, who are you? What do you do? It's going to start with that.
Yep.
But I would encourage anyone to, if you want, nervous about the conversation and getting into conversation and keeping that conversation going. My fear as an unnatural networker is I'm going to be a bit boring. I'm fear that they're going to look at me in this conversation and just go, "God, who's this guy?" That's the dialogue that's going around in my mind. And there's one simple way to stop that ever being an issue. Is what do people like to talk about? They like to talk about themselves. So if you can get them talking, that's a good way to keep a conversation going.
Hence the ask some questions.
Exactly.
Hey, which again, introverts tend to be very good at doing.
They do. And if you all happen to be talking to an extrovert, well, they'll be delighted because they get to talk a bit more. And introvert, okay, maybe they'll probably ask you some questions as well, and that's good, because if the other person never asks you any questions, well, clearly that relationship,
torture, isn't it?
Exactly, that relationship's not going to go anywhere very far. But yeah, it's just having a few pre-prepared questions. So once you've got into the basics, I would try and think of interesting questions. Get them talking about themselves. A great question, one of the best networking questions I know is, or I use is, so how do you get into what you do? Because instead of just asking what you do, which is a very closed answer, how did you get into what you do? Well, that takes them back. It might be 1 year, it might be 20 years to back when they started their business. What do we like when we start a business? We're excited, we're enthusiastic.
So what you're doing is unpacking their story and unpacking some of their emotion.
Exactly. Why do they get into what they do? I think that's a great question. Second question is really good to answer is, who's a good contact for you in business? Who would you like to speak to? And it's so often when you actually get asked, you'll get people honestly doing a double take on you. So
wow.
What? You're asking how you can help me? So many people approach networking with a me attitude, and they're doing it wrong, by the way. Trying to sell.
That's the extrovert thing, and isn't that why? I don't know. I will ask you this. Is that why do you think that introverts don't like it? Because they see lots of extrovert, pushy people doing pushy sales things.
I think pushy sales people can be a problem. I am going to come clean though. There are definitely introverts who do it as well.
Oh, that I agree with.
Because I think they see it as a learned behaviour and they think that's what I've got to do. I've got to bring in some sales. That's what people seem to do. There's absolutely no point trying to sell anything at a networking event, because no one ever goes to a networking event with the intention of buying something. So it's just
so we've started the conversation. Plucked up courage.
Yep.
You've given some great tips: body language, the phone, some ideas to start a conversation. There's two things that strike me from there. Number one is, how do you end that conversation so you can go and talk to somebody else politely? And number two is, what do you do after the event? Because I've had some good conversations, and I've done this myself, and I have loads of conversations, and then I go home and I go, well, that was a waste of time. I had lots of lovely conversations. So how do you get out the conversation, and
two important areas. Let's do getting out of the conversation first, and you do have to do it. Even if, let's say this conversation has gone really well, there's clearly synergies between you, there's clearly some interest, there's clearly, we've agreed to go and meet for a coffee next week and discuss it further, or whatever the discussion is, you've still got to get out of that conversation, because if you stick to them like glue, they're going to just think you're weird and you've blown everything that's gone before. You may equally be talking to someone who is, should we say, not so interesting and has been boring you witless through the course of the conversation. So you need to get out those conversations as well. You know what, honestly, it's rocket science again, this one.
Oh, good. I like rocket science.
It really isn't. It was lovely to meet you.
Oh, okay.
Now, let's just look at that statement for a sec. It was lovely to meet you. With a nice firm handshake, very positive, with a smile, with a, you've got to be genuine about it, looking them in the eyes. You can't be looking over their shoulder, who am I going to talk to next? It was lovely to meet you. It's in the past tense. It genuinely was lovely to meet you. I'm not,
it's genuine.
I can't be any. Honestly, keep it simple. Because I think if you make the excuses, I'm just going to go and get sandwiches, or I'm just off to the bathroom.
Well, my phone's ringing in my pocket.
It's just,
I've got to go and use it and play with it.
It's just, they know you're not. You're just trying to get a conversation.
Okay.
Another good way to do it. This is maybe perhaps a little more of a sort of advanced networking technique, if you like. If you've asked earlier on who's a good contact for you, who's a good referral, they might say, "Hey, accountants are great for me." Oh, happen to see an accountant? Hey, let me introduce you to them.
Over.
And you pass them over. So that's a nice technique, but obviously it relies on you happening to see someone you know is suitable for them after. So yeah, just keep it simple. It was lovely to meet you, and sometimes have to be a bit firm about it. Honestly, great to meet. I'm off now, and I think if you do it nicely, I don't think you've got any problem there at all.
Okay, so what happens
and then it's
the next day or whenever it's got to do?
I think it's called witchcraft follow-up.
Okay.
This crazy thing.
Yeah.
You know what? Follow-up, honestly, is doing only one thing. It's just doing what you said you're going to do. Nothing more than that. Okay. That's all it is. And I think people overcomplicate it, honestly. If you said you're going to meet for a coffee, go and meet that coffee. If you said you're going to email them. Whatever you said you're going to do, just do it. And I genuinely believe that a lot of people, I don't know why they do it, whether they want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's not a good way around, by the way. You want to underpromise and overdeliver, and it's the first test of credibility. Because if you want, let's assume they're not someone who's been boring you to tears. This is someone you're interested in. This is a good contact for you and your business. You've had a great conversation. You've agreed that you're going to meet. If you don't then go and do what you said you're going to do, well, then immediately there's got to be some level of doubt in their mind.
And would you do that with all the people you meet at this event, or would you just pick?
No.
Okay.
No, because you will get people who are more
They were nice conversations. And that's
nice conversations. Look, you might connect with them on LinkedIn, fine, but it's not necessarily going to go anywhere. What I often do is you will get a bunch of business cards at a networking event. Some of them you'll want because you've asked for them. Some of them you might not want so much because they've been given to you. Let's put it that way. I have two pockets. If you're a lady, you have two parts of your handbag, whatever it is. Two pockets. One on the left, one on the right. I'm never going to show which one's which, by the way.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're not, because I saw which pocket you put my card in.
Yeah, no. But you just go, right, okay, that's the one I want to follow up on, and I make sure I do that. Look, I'm not going to ignore the other ones. I might well connect with them on LinkedIn. I tend to operate a system of follow-up. I call it 1-1-1 follow-up. Follow up in 1 day, 1 week, and 1 month. And different types of follow-up will come depending on what you want. Obviously, if you've arranged to meet for that coffee next week, well, it's very clear what your follow-up. Where it's just more building a general relationship over time, what I tend to do after 1 day, I'll just drop them an email, even a card sometimes, isn't it? Because
it's different.
It's different, exactly. But just drop them an email or a card and just make reference to something we talked about. It might have been the fact that you're starting a new project, or we happen to have kids the same age, or whatever. Just whatever came up in conversation.
It just links back that personal connection.
Reference the conversation. That would be typical for the 1 day. The 1 week, I tend to make sure I've connected by then on social media. LinkedIn's my tool of choice, but everyone has their favourite. And again, I'll reference something that we said, or I'll check their posts out in the intermediate time and just say, I saw your post on X. I don't want it to be the generic, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. I want to make sure we're looking to build a relationship. And then if you're interested in taking it further, the 1 month follow-up might be, hey, we've started to get to know each other a bit. Do you fancy sitting down for coffee? Let's get to know each other a bit better.
And where you take it from there depends on exactly what you need. But Charlie, that's brilliant.
Networking isn't just about meeting new people. It's about continuing those relationships. And I think a lot of people forget that.
Cool, thank you. That was really, really useful, Charlie. I especially like the 1-1-1-1, and I think I can see several people listening to this and adopting that. If somebody wanted to get back in touch with you, what would they do? Email me, Charlie at unnaturalnetworker.com. I'm also LinkedIn is a great place to find me. And if they want the book, is it on Amazon? It is on Amazon, yes. It's called The Unnatural Networker. Charlie Lawson, thank you very much. Appreciate it.